असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय
असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मामृतं गमय असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय
This is the last of 12 episodes entitled Language Acquisition Program. Some very important characteristics of spoken English. Pronunciation of individual sounds, word stress, sentence stress, and the normal rhythm of an English sentence. When you give a sentence, normally in Malayalam, we give the breath force to all the words alike. But in English it is different. And normally the general rule is that the content words are stressed and the structural words are pushed in between. They are normally unstressed. What would you have done if I talked to you in the street? You might have noted that in this long sentence with 14 words, I have stressed only 4 words. What, done, talked, street. Now these are supposed to be the words that convey ideas, and the words that convey ideas are normally stressed in English, and this leads to what is called the natural rhythm in the English language. One more aspect remains to be talked about, and that is what is called intonation or tune. English uses certain intonation patterns, while spoken English is indulged in. If you make a statement, you end the statement with what is called a falling tune. Now, what is a falling tune? If the pitch of the voice falls on the last stressed syllable, we say it is a falling tune. This is a pencil. Normally in English, statements and questions with question words are said with a falling tune. What are you doing? He is a good boy. So in these sentences, in the first, which is a question with a question word, the tune falls on the last stressed syllable. In the second one too, the tune falls on the second syllable. So statements and questions with question words are said with a falling tune. And there's another one in English that's called rising tune. Yes or no questions, like, is that a book? Is this a pencil? The ending is in the rising tune, the last stressed syllable on the last stressed syllable. the tone or the tune or the intonation rises. Do you like to drink a cup of coffee? Is this a good novel? Then there are mixed intonations like, is that a book or a notebook? There it's a mixed kind of intonation where we have the rising, falling intonation. A speaker of English has to be careful about this intonation in English. We start this episode by listening to a passage which describes the legislative complex of Kerala.
The Kerala legislature meets in a new building that rivals the assemblies of its neighboring states in terms of space and grandeur. Located at Palayam, its towering dome, landscaped gardens, galleries with carvings, ornate teak paneling, artificial ceiling, modern acoustic systems, and exquisite furnishings make it an imposing structure. The architecture combines tradition and modernity. Apart from the assembly hall, it also houses the offices of ministers and their staff, administrative wings of the secretariat, and a library. The main building comprises spacious rooms, long corridors, conference and meeting rooms of varying sizes, marble flooring, and centralized air conditioning. On the main gate is an emblem of the old Travancore state, and the main building has the sign of the government of Kerala. The legislative complex as a whole is a restricted area with tight security. What does the legislative complex consist of?
An assembly hall, offices of the ministers and their staff, administrative wings of the secretariat, and a library.
Where is it located?
It is located at Palayam.
Mention salient features of the complex.
A towering dome, landscaped gardens, galleries, carvings, teak panels, artificial ceiling, modern acoustic system, and exquisite furnishing.
The second part of this is a listening comprehension passage in which a story is narrated. Actually, animal stories are interesting to little children.
Once upon a time, there lived in a forest an eagle and a hyena. They were great friends. The eagle built its nest at the top of a cliff near a huge tree, while the hyena stayed in the bushes underneath the tree. The eagle soared to great heights, hunted all day, and shared its prey with the hyena. The hyena also killed small animals and served the eagle its dinner. The other animals thought of it as a strange relationship. Very soon, the eagle had a brood of chicks. The hyena also gave birth to a pair of young ones. When the chicks were able to chirp and be steady on their feet, the eagle left them for longer intervals and went in search of food. The hyena also had to feed her cubs. They nurtured the young ones happily and took turns at keeping an eye on each other's kids while the mother was away. That summer was particularly tough. It led to the worst drought ever in the history of the forest. Animals roamed in search of food and water. One evening, the hyena was rather late in returning from her hunt. The eagle guessed that she was searching in vain for animals or their remains. The eagle too was famished. She had not eaten anything for a week. The incessant cry of her young ones drove her up the wall. She saw the young hyena cubs venturing out on their own from the safety of the bush, perhaps in search of their mother. There was no time to think further. In a swoop, she was down on the cubs, took them in her claws, and into the eager jaws of her own young ones. In no time, the family had made a meal of its neighbor. The hyena was shattered by the loss of her cubs. She could not believe that the eagle, her best friend, had turned out to be the murderer of her children. She screamed abuses at the eagle on the treetop, vowed vengeance, and wandered all day and night throughout the length and breadth of the forest. But what could she, an earth-bound animal, do against a free flyer of a bird out of everyone's reach? She waited, desolate in her sorrow. Meanwhile, the people in the village at the edge of the forest were planning a yaga to appease the rain gods. They built a huge yagashala and conducted pujas for 5 days. In conclusion, they set fire to the yagashala as was the custom. Sparks of fire rose high into the sky and into the forest. Soon the forest, dried up in the scorching summer, was on fire. Huge flames engulfed the eagle's nest and killed her chicks. The mother watched helplessly as her children were burnt to death.
Describe the routine of the eagle and the hyena.
The eagle built its nest at the top of a cliff near a huge tree.
while the hyena stayed in the bushes underneath the tree. They shared their prey and talked late into the night of all that they had seen that day. The eagle of its aerial view of distant lands, and the hyena of all that happened in the forest.
What did the other animals think of their friendship?
The other animals thought of it as a strange relationship.
How did they look after their young ones?
They nurtured their young ones happily and took turns at keeping an eye on each other's kids while the mother was away.
What was the eagle's act of treachery?
One summer, drought set in and the whole jungle was hit by famine. The eagle, unable to bear its hunger after a week of starvation, swooped down on the hyena cubs, killed them, and made a meal of them with her family.
How did the hyena take the loss of her young ones?
The hyena was shattered by the loss of her cubs. She could not believe that the eagle, her best friend, had turned out to be the murderer of her young ones. She screamed abuses at the eagle on the treetop, vowed vengeance, and wandered all day and night throughout the length and breadth of the forest. But as an earthbound animal, there was little she could do against the bird.
What message does this story convey?
That one cannot escape the consequences of one's actions, whether they be good or evil.
This episode is different from all the preceding episodes in a particular thing. The dialogues that we had presented in the preceding 11 episodes were pieces of informal conversation. Here, in this episode, we are trying to present a debate or a discussion-like thing. Now, in this discussion that we have presented here, a teacher is there to guide the children, and the learners have the experience of visiting the zoo, and questions are asked and answers are given. This is what is called interchange, and learning through interchange of language, interaction, particularly for language learning. When the teacher who guides the children asks questions, they learn how to ask questions politely in a formal situation. Similarly, when they take part in the discussion, they observe certain rules like allowing others to speak, listening before speaking out, and when one speaks, to speak with a lot of respect for the hearers, and so on.
We have a guest this morning, Mrs. Kaivanisa A, lecturer in English, All Saints College, Thiruvananthapuram. She will conduct an interactive session on our tour.
Good morning, children.
Good morning, ma'am.
And welcome to this session. As part of this English language acquisition program, these children were taken to a lot of spots in and around Trivandrum city, attractive spots, and they seem to have had a very good time. Just look at their faces, they are happy. So let's find out what they did there, how they enjoyed themselves. So Aishwarya, would you like to tell me about your trip to Kovalam? Can you give me 3 sentences?
I found it really interesting. I enjoyed the beauty of the waves and the cool breeze. I walked along the sea coast and we all played and danced there.
You danced too?
Yeah.
Okay, that's nice. Because rarely do we find people dancing on Kovalam beaches. And did you go to any other place? I heard you went to some other resort.
Yeah, we did. It was a resort situated on an estuary. The specialty of the resort was that there were lots of coconut trees in the middle of a lake.
Did you have any adventures going to this resort? How was the weather and how was your journey?
The weather was just fine. It was a sunny day.
Okay.
And
in spite of all the rains around, you managed to find sunny days, right?
Yes.
How much time did you take to reach the resort?
More than 1.5 hours.
Okay, and how much time do you spend there?
4 hours.
4 hours. Okay, that's a long time, right? You must have had a nice time there. And you boys sitting quietly, you all enjoyed yourself? Yes. Okay, so it seems very clear that you enjoyed yourself. You look quite pleased with life. All right. Okay, now children, what about your visit to the zoo? Well, the word zoo, by the way, is a short form for a longer word. In fact, a phrase. Does anybody know the full form?
Zoological garden.
Yes, it is zoological garden or the zoological park. It's a place, it's a park where animals are kept, right? Because the word zoo itself means pertaining to an animal, pertaining to animals. For example, another word you can say. Can you tell me another word which begins with zoo? Zoology. Yes, zoology. That's right. So zoology means the study of animals. So now you went to the zoo. Looks like you had a happy time there. What about the animals? Were they happy to see you? You no idea.
Teacher, because we don't have the sense to.
Because you do not know, they cannot speak to you and tell you whether they are happy or not. But if you look at the circumstances in which they are, under which they exist, maybe we can understand whether they are happy or not, right? And Uma, would you like to be a lion? What about being a lion which that underwent surgery, a cataract surgery recently, a lioness?
I'm a very happy lioness. I have recovered from a cataract surgery. Now I can see things clearly, and I have known that people care for me.
So you know that even in your old age you will not be neglected.
No, I wouldn't be.
Well, that's nice, because I don't know how many lions will share your point of view. Don't we have an unhappy lion?
Of course.
Yes, here is an unhappy lion. So can you tell us why you're unhappy?
I hate the life in the zoo because I'm always enclosed in a cage. I have no free space to move around, and I cannot hunt down the animals.
You can't get your prey.
Yes.
I'm sorry, prey.
And this makes me very sad. I don't have real good companions too. And I'm really lonely in the zoo.
In spite of those very thin lions around you?
Yeah.
You want better looking, healthy lions.
Yes.
But still, there are, now in Trivandrum Zoo, you can go into the open space. Even then you're unhappy?
Yes, but they let us free only for some time. Then they take me back to the cage where again I have the same problem.
And what about you, Vijay? What animal would you like to be? I mean, would you like to
present? Part of birds.
Okay.
I love birds. Here in zoo, birds did not get enough space, even to.
They do not get enough space. You
Enough
mean the
space
cages
in
are
the
very
cage.
small?
Very small, and the birds, more birds are in one cage.
All right.
It's,
so you think the animals are more comfortable, have more comfortable cages
compared to birds? They have more. They
Yes,
are more
that's true. I think what she says is true. You agree?
Yes.
No, teacher, the snakes are the most uncomfortable.
Okay, why?
Because they have only a small cage.
All right. So you would like to be a snake?
Yes.
Snake with glasses? All right. That's a very cute snake. So you find life very uncomfortable there?
Yes.
Why?
Snakes are very uncomfortable because they are kept in a small glass cage.
That's true. It's very uncomfortable. What you say is right. So I suppose you are having a very unhappy time at the zoo. We better tell the zoo authorities about your problems.
And they are also forced to hiss.
Yes,
when the visitors want to.
Yes, that is where I think maximum cruelty comes, when the animals are forced to do things which they normally they don't want to do. That's right. The same thing with a hippo too, isn't it?
Yes.
Would anybody like to be a hippo?
Yes.
Nobody wants to be a hippo.
You
want to be a snake and a hippo. You want to take everybody's role already.
When visitors come to see me, the keepers show me food and force me to open my mouth.
Your big mouth. You have to open your mouth really big. They force you to do. You don't want to open your mouth at everyone's beck and call, right? And what about you, Aishwarya?
Being an elephant, I feel happy. Zoo elephant leads a life more comfortable than a domesticated elephant. And domesticated elephants are forced to do hard tasks, such as carrying heavy lots of logs of wood and all.
But surely, if you had a chance to go into the wide forests, what would you do? You would go. So finally, we realized that those are the places that the animals love to be. So now, what conclusion can we reach then? There are some societies which prevent cruelty to animals. Do you know any of them? SPCA. Yes, SPCA. Can you give the full form?
The Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals.
Then there is another international organization. It's called PETA, P-E-T-A. It's People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Then there is our own organization, the Indian organization. That's right.
People for Animals.
People for Animals. Yes. So there are these organizations that are trying to see that animals are treated well and they are taken care of and so on. But then, in that case, what do you say? That we should let all the animals go back to their natural habitats?
No.
Why did you go to the zoo after all? You said you had a nice time and now you're looking a little serious.
We go there to see all animals.
Yes, at one time.
It's impossible to keep a wildlife sanctuary there in a city.
Yes.
So
you can see all of them at the same time. Otherwise, you'll have to go to
each
Africa,
to see
America, Australia. That's right.
It's impossible to go there.
So it's better, isn't it, that you go to the zoo and see everything. In that case, what do you do then? What can we do? Can you suggest something?
There are some parks that we can see the animals in the forest.
That's true, but that's not particularly easy. You cannot see all that you want to see. Here you know what you're going to see, right? When you go to the zoo, you go to see particular animals. You see them.
I think people who love these animals should be made keepers.
Yes, very good. That's right. That's a good suggestion, right? People who love animals, who can take care of these animals, then they will see that not much cruelty is inflicted on them. Yes. Anything else? What else could we do?
Strict actions should be taken against the harsh visitors.
Yes, against cruel visitors. Strict action should be taken, and somebody should constantly keep watch on them. Anything else that we can do? Maybe we
more
could.
Space.
Yes, we could see that more space. Is given to all these animals, and something like see that the habitat kind of resembles their native habitat. Maybe a lot of effort could go into seeing that they are as comfortable as possible under the existing conditions, right?
It's our duty. I think
it's our duty. And I think it's your duty also as young children and as lovers of animals to see that our Trivandrum Zoo becomes the best zoo in the world.
Not in the world, teacher.
Yes, only in India. He corrects me. It will be only in India because we have a wonderful zoo in Santiago, which is where none of the animals are caged. It is really beautiful. That is almost impossible for us to ape. I'm sorry to use an animal word to ape or to imitate. Still, we can try, right? So we are trying our best to make our zoo as good as possible, as attractive as possible, as comfortable as possible. So let's hope it will be like that. And thank you very much for a very nice session with you. It was very nice, very edifying, very entertaining. So thank you and wish you all the best.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
This is the last of 12 episodes. One of the ways in which people acquire language is interaction. So, a discussion and debate form a very important learning situation for a foreign language learner of English. In the stories and in the narrations, as it has been emphasized earlier, we have stressed certain ideas to be inculcated, and we have stressed certain attitudes to be created, and also certain social forms of behavior which have to be imitated.
Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Mritangamaya